I knew he was a hipster from the moment I saw him, from the moment he walked through that estate sale door. The year was 2017. He was dressed like he was from 1849, like a gold miner, a 49er, a prospector man, a fringe leather jacket, tailored pants held up by suspenders, a wide brim hat to shield his face from the sun as he's panning for gold. But he was not panning for gold. He was panning for records. He was a hipster. In 2017, the world seemed full of hipsters. There was the prospector man, there was his cousin, the lumberjack man bun dude, and then there was his sister, the twee girl. One by one, the prospector man, the lumberjack dude, the twee girl, they began to disappear from the public eye. They were there at the height of the Hipster Renaissance. They began to disappear as if they never existed at all. But somebody remembers, I remember them. Twee girl has ditched her skinny jeans. She swapped it out for a pair of wide leg jeans. Her saddle shoes are no more there. She's adopted more comfortable footwear. She's adopted some Crocs. Hipster guy with his pomaded head and his undercut and his beard and his waxed mustache, he is no more. He might even have a perm now, a perm. I don't see as much flannel. I don't see as much mustard yellow. I still see some IPA drinking, but I don't think it's done ironically. My name is Teresa, and this is the Hipster Renaissance. I always thought that hipster was born in about like 2010. It turns out that the hipster goes back even farther. The first known sighting of a hipster in the 40s, Harry the Hipster. He was a character, I think, on TV that was really into jazz, the Greenwich Village, politically progressive slam poetry reading at a coffee shop, beatnik vibe. There is a photo taken in the 40s. This one guy looks like he's from the 2010s. He's a time traveler from the 2010s, come to the 40s, or he's been photoshopped in, but it's not true. He is an actual person from the 40s. So it just goes to show that the hipsters' roots go way back. I would even say it goes back to the 1840s. Do our modern day hipsters, they look at fashion from the past and adopt it, and that's why this guy in the 40s looks like he stepped out of 2010s. Chicken or the egg. So now let's talk about the 2010s hipsters, their characteristics and activities. So you got the man bun. Millennial hipsters are now in their like mid 30s to almost pushing 40. This very tight man bun is probably responsible for a lot of receding hairlines, but along with the man bun, you have the hipster beard, a very groomed beard or an ironic mustache. So this mustache, it's a premeditated mustache. We're not talking about like you just grow a mustache. We're talking about mustache oil or the tweaking of the mustaches at the tips, the Salvador Dali. So the hipster man and a 19th century gentleman have a lot in common. In the Victorian ages, men had facial hair. They had very eccentric, unique facial hair, like the walrus stash, the handlebar mustache, the pencil mustache. There's a lot of mustaches going on. And for a while, prior to mustaches coming in again with the hipsters, it wasn't very mainstream to have a mustache. And that's probably why they started growing facial hair, because it was not mainstream, and mainstream is not what they want. So then you bring back the fedora or a beanie. The beanie coupled with the beard with man bun, wide brim prospector hat. And this is the LA concert hat. If you ever been to an LA concert in the 2010s or been to Coachella, you know what I'm talking about. There's the guy version and the girl version. In the hipster subsect, there's the hipsters that want to look like they're prospectors, like they're barbershop quartets, or they live in like the turn of the century. They're running small businesses at the turn of the century. And then there's like the lumberjack hipster. I don't know where the lumberjack look came from and why it's associated with hipsters, but it just is. And specifically, I think around 2015, 2014, everybody had this red and black buffalo check lumberjack shirt. I wouldn't say that the hipster guy wears skinny jeans like the emo guy would wear skinny jeans, like very tight. They wear more of a straight leg, and we want a rugged look. And usually their jeans are rolled up at the ankle to show a sock, or they may have like a workman's boot. But when you think about it, the hipster guy is adopting all these characteristics of a masculine guy. You got the beard, the flannel. Sometimes he would come in with a pipe, not a crack pipe, grandfather smoking tobacco pipe. He would have like a hip flask. He would be really into knives. I see the hipster guy as being into blade crafting. What is blade crafting? He's really into woodworking and blacksmithing. That's what people did in the past, in the turn of the century. Blacksmithing. Like the older hipster male role model, I think Nick Offerman's character in Parks and Rec. Like he's like a hipster. He's really into woodworking. He's got the mustache. I recall seeing him in flannel. Looks like a lumberjack. Back when the hipsters were still in the process of becoming, tattoos were not as mainstream as it was now. It was an alternative lifestyle choice. That's why they're drawn to it. And now it's mainstream. So now I wonder if the hipsters are trying to get all their tattoos removed so they could be in the alternative subset of people who don't have tattoos. The Buddy Holly frames, the big black plastic Clark Kent glasses. I mentioned I used to work in optical. A lot of the time some people came in for glasses and they wanted the Ray-Ban Wayfarer style, but they didn't have a prescription, so they would opt to just kind of pop out the lenses and just wear them without lenses. So now that we've covered, let's move to the female hipster, which is the Twee Lady, the Twee girl. She is a quirky lady, which I covered in depth in this Twee video, but let's just do a speed run of what she likes and what kind of clothes she would wear. So the Twee Lady is a quirky lady, a librarian-esque lady. She's cute. She likes retro clothing, so she's a frequent shopper in thrift shops. She may even run a thrift shop. She wears these ModCloth-esque dresses, A-line dresses with a Peter Pan collar in most cases. Pair that with a cardigan. Usually it's like a grandma cardigan, like mustard yellow. 2013 mustard yellow was really in. You would definitely have some kind of colorful tights, or the tights would have some kind of print on them, or she herself, her dress or her clothes would have an ironic mustache print, cat prints, owl prints. A circle scarf will complete the outfit. She would wear schoolgirl saddle shoes from the 50s, a Oxford pump with a sensible heel. I see her as a rockabilly type of girl, so definitely there's some tattoos involved. We're not talking about a full sleeve, but there could be a full sleeve. She would dye her hair black, pure midnight black. She would have bangs, but the bangs would go straight across, like right here, very short. Zooey Deschanel is the queen of tweeds, so look at everything Zooey Deschanel wore in the 2010s, and there you have it. In most cases, she would have the Buddy Holly black framed glasses, but because she is going for a quirky librarian vibe, some cat-eye glasses, maybe actual vintage cat-eye glasses from the 50s with rhinestones at the corner. The string, the grandma string, that's what we're talking about. The cat-eye, winged eyeliner, red lips, the whole rockabilly Lana Del Rey and Taylor Swift in her red era look. In the vein of general hipster activities, we like to go back in time and go that extra mile and be very extra. Do what the people in the past would do. You can stream your music, that's easy, but you don't want the easy route. You want the hard, non-mainstream route. So you go out and you buy records, you go to estate sales, or you shop on eBay, you go to dedicated record shops, which there were not that many of back 10, 20 years ago, and you would find records and you would listen to them. And then you would either have your mom and dad's record player, or you would spend $300 on Audio-Technica, whatever, fancy record player, because you just can't have a cute record player that you buy off Amazon now. They're easy to get now. You want the purest sound. You are literally that character in High Fidelity. John Cusack's character. You are an audiophile and a musical snob. you own a typewriter. I not only own a typewriter, I own 2 typewriters. I wasn't a full-blown hipster, but I kind of like the various activities that hipsters did. And also I'm a writer, so it makes sense. I fancied writing my novels on a typewriter, like they did in the old days. I have always had this romanticized vision of what a writer's life would look like, and it would be very Hemingway-esque, and Hemingway wrote on a typewriter. He wrote on a typewriter, also on a standing desk. Let me tell you a story about this typewriter. This is the Olivetti Letterata 32. It's from the 60s, and it is the exact same typewriter that Cormac McCarthy used to pen most of his novels. It's not the exact typewriter. That typewriter was auctioned off for $250,000. This typewriter I found at an estate sale for like $32, and it doesn't work because I don't know how to change the ribbon. And it's a little difficult to type on because it requires a lot of finger pressure. You would have a vintage camera, and somewhere in your home you would have a dark room where you develop your own film, and your camera would be like an old school camera, like this kind of camera. This doesn't work. It was a prop for my wedding. You would go around town taking photos like this. You would also have a Polaroid camera, Polaroid 1-step as featured back there, or you would have the most basic of cameras that every girl on Instagram had at the time, Instax Mini, and your wall would be covered in the Instax Polaroids. This is actually very commercial, and you could buy this at Urban Outfitters. I didn't get this at Urban Outfitters, by the way. I don't shop at Urban Outfitters. This is what the hipster culture has become. It started off like this, vintage, trying to differentiate yourself from the mainstream, and then it became this. It became something that you could buy at Urban Outfitters. This was what the hipsters' expectation was, and this was the hipsters' reality. And that's why the hipster has disappeared, because the hipster has turned into a commercialized version of everything that they've hated. Wes Anderson was the godfather of hipsters. His earlier movies, Bottle Rocket, Rushmore, that was the epitome of the hipster. Around the time when the Grand Budapest Hotel came out, he started becoming more mainstream and recognized, but before, his movies were exactly the type of movie that hipsters like. Hipsters love a good IPA, and for some reason, and I don't know why, they're big proponents of Pabst Blue Ribbon. So Pabst Blue Ribbon has universally been panned as a bad beer. I don't think I've ever actually had it, but it's considered a bad beer, and hipsters will drink that ironically, because the thing with hipsters is that they love high culture, indie movies, maybe foreign films that you've never heard of, indie bands that are very good but you have not heard of. So that's high culture. They would go to art museums and know all about art history. They could tell you all about this portrait. They would look at a statue and go, yes, spout out some pretentious knowledge they read on the little placard. But they also are a fan of low culture. So Pabst Blue Ribbon is considered low culture because it's considered a poor quality, poor man's, working man's beer or whatever. But they drink that ironically. They want to turn what's panned by mainstream culture into a thing. So what is once basic, something you don't think about in mainstream culture, they want to elevate that. So we have the elevation of Pabst Blue Ribbon. It's on t-shirts all of a sudden. Mustaches were panned for a while. People made fun of mustaches, and then they adopted mustaches. They wore it as tattoos. There's the whole genre of ironic, somewhat stupid tattoos. Tattoos that really, that's cute and quirky. It's a dinosaur fixing a ceiling lamp. This explosion of things made with cereal. You got Fruity Pebbles, Fruit Loops, cereal milk. Start charging like $15 for a bowl of cereal. It's a whole restaurant where you could just eat cereal. And that's like something basic that you could eat at home, but then you want to pay more for it for the experience. That in itself, I thought was a millennial thing, but it's a hipster millennial thing. A lot of the things that hipsters were doing in 2010s, most of the hipsters were millennials, so that's why people who don't like hipsters tend to intermingle the hipsters and the millennials. And I write romantic comedies, and one of the books that I wrote, the one that has the lowest star review, by the way, a retelling of Emma. where the main character is basically living in this hipster renaissance. It's more of like a millennial renaissance, but one of my negative reviews,
she's a hipster convert. Oh, I hate these hipsters.
So up until the point where I wrote my Hipster Emma book, I didn't know people didn't like hipsters. Now I see that they don't. A lot of my readers, they kind of hate hipsters. So that sucks for me. You live, you learn. I still don't think hipsters are very annoying, and maybe it's because in 2017 when I wrote this book, I was deep into this millennial hipster lifestyle. I acquired these items and I've acquired a taste for fruity pebble encrusted things, and I went around to the Broad and I took my photo in an infinity room and posted it on Instagram, and I got the Instax Mini and started taking Polaroids of things, and maybe in some small way I was living this hipster lifestyle. I'm a hipster doofus. But let's now talk about why the hipster has disappeared, why that prospector man is no more. He's ditched his waxed mustache, he's ditched his prospector hat. Now he's probably dressed like a hype beast guy, like he was doing some Supreme drops or something. The hipster, they were anti-capitalist, anti-conformity, their love of expensive coffee, gourmet coffee, their love of records, everything that's considered non-mainstream has now become mainstream. You go into any city, wall art. Every city boasts of the uniqueness of their wall art, and I'm sure it's very unique, but now every city has wall art. Every city has millennial-looking restaurants with industrial interior design, concrete floors, exposed pipes, Edison hanging light bulbs, a succulent or two reclaimed wood. Every city has a couple restaurants that look like that. Every city's got like a third-party coffee roaster that sells expensive coffee just like Starbucks, cold brew, lattes, nitro coffee, I don't know, the one that you put in that funnel and you kind of slowly drizzle the hot water in. A word about coffee is I think I have very lowbrow taste, because you can direct me to an expensive espresso and I'll taste it and I'll be like, ooh, bitter. But then when you give me that instant Nescafe stuff, I think that actually tastes better. I've dipped my toe into the hipster culture, but I didn't go all the way. I didn't go full hipster. I own some flannel. In summary, some people don't like hipsters because there is a reek of being a poser about them. Hipsters have become what they despise the most, which is mainstream and capitalist. So I don't know if you were ever a hipster back in the Renaissance days of the 2010s and what you're doing now. So if you are a hipster, number one, just know I am not one of those people that dislike you.
She's a hipster convert. Oh, I hate these hipsters.
I think I kind of wanted to be you. What are you doing now? What kind of clothes are you wearing now? Did you discard your skinny jeans? What happened to your lumberjack clothes? What happened to your man bun? Is your hairline receding because of that man bun? And if you were a former twee girl, what are you wearing right now? What has replaced your twee wardrobe? So maybe the hipsters are not even working as blacksmiths anymore, running their vintage shops, or they've given up their barista occupation. Now they've been hired to work in a corporation, and they're facing that adulthood 9-to-5, and they're living that yuppie lifestyle that they rebelled against and hated. And maybe now they have stock vested in the company and they're living in a suburb and shopping at Costco. So that is probably where the hipster is now, speculatively. So that's a chilling turn of events. What you rebelled against when you were young, you have now become, and now the youth is rebelling against you. On that horrible disappointment, it is now time for me to go. I see that a large percentage of you are watching but not subscribed. So please, let's make this official and put a ring on it. And if you made it this far, drop a bearded emoji down below so I know that you're watching me and I could be watching you.